I'm going to show you guys how to stop falling into the consumer debt trap. This is a massive issue, and there's a huge difference between good debt and bad debt. But right now, consumer debt is taking over, and hundreds of thousands, millions of people are falling into this trap. I don't even know why I said hundreds, but a large percentage, like 50 to 60% of people are having issues. As you can see, US has serious delinquency skyrocketing. This is the most since 2011. And credit card debt is delinquent 90 plus days, has reached an all-time high. Okay, when it's 90 plus days and you're delinquent on credit 90 plus days, that means you're getting missed payments, which is super hard to remove and will take months, if not years, to improve, which causes major issues. The other thing that I want to talk about is auto loans are now seriously becoming delinquent, which is important because the United States is a very keeping up with the Joneses country. Everyone wants to have a nice car. I'm sure you guys have seen the videos of people talking about having $800,000, $1,500 monthly payments on their cars that are $50,000, $70,000 cars, right? That is insane. And what I'm going to talk about in this video is how to not fall for this consumer debt trap, but also give you a lifeline of 3 to 5 years, if not longer, when you actually understand how the game operates. What you don't want to do is fall into this. Credit is actually not a lifeline. It is a leverage point, okay? And a lot of people utilize it as a lifeline to flex, to purchase things that they do not have the money for, and to impress people, which we don't want to do. So let's actually dive into it. First off, if you guys do not know, you guys want to get out of the consumer debt trap, well, you have to actually figure out and understand why people fall into it. And I don't mean this to be rude, but most people are seriously financially illiterate. Like 60s, I talk to a lot of people. Many people are financially illiterate. They don't understand what goes into their score. They don't understand that even if they have a good score, it really doesn't help them when it comes to lending. Okay, so when you're trying to understand your credit, which this is the most important piece, if you want to stay out of the consumer debt trap, you have to understand your personal credit and how to build it, is payment history. So you don't want missed payments. Set up auto pay always. And the other 30%, 65% of your score is payment history, or 35% of your score is payment history. The other 30% is utilization. Meaning if you don't have high credit limits or comparable credit limits and you only have 5K of credit and you're spending 3K, your score is going to plummet. It's going to hurt you. Okay? So the more you use on less credit, the more it's going to hurt you. The other thing is how much credit are you applying for? The types of credit, right? The mix. Do you have loans? Do you have credit cards? Do you have different unsecured loans? The mix of credit is important. And then, of course, the length of your credit or your credit age. How long have you had credit? Which you can improve that by adding authorized users, and I recommend all of you do that. So if you want to stay to consumer debt, treat your personal credit like gold. Treat it like gold. Do not spend on your personal credit cards unless you can pay it off in full. Unless you can pay it off in full. I'm telling you this right now. If you follow this rule, the rest of this presentation will blow your freaking mind. Okay? So do not use it as a lifeline. Use it as leverage. 800 credit scores. People talk about it, right? It's the golden standard, blase. People can have 800 credit scores, but they don't have a good credit report. Your score doesn't mean anything if you don't have a good report, which is under the hood. It's the resume. It's your experience. Okay? Don't max out your cards. Play the long game and apply for credit when you need it. Now I'm going to talk about, or when you don't need it. Sorry. Okay? Now let's talk about this. How do you build up your credit? Well, you want to build up your credit with banks that are primary banks, and I'll talk about this, but you want to focus on getting credit cards that are higher limits. And the way that you get higher limits with these credit cards like Chase, American Express, Wells Fargo is by building relationships with them. So what you can do if you're just building your credit or you want to learn how to build your credit is you can set up bank accounts with them and have some money deposit in there. You don't even have to put a lot of money deposit in there, but if you put some money and you deposit in there weekly, bi-weekly from another bank account, it's going to look good and you're going to fast track your ability to get approved for something like the Freedom Unlimited card. Now, my favorite card with Chase is the Chase Sapphire Preferred because it has a low annual fee and it typically gives you at least a 5K credit limit, but usually it's 8 to 15K. American Express, another great bank to build a relationship with. Now, what banks should you focus on? Let's bring it over here. Well, personally, I like free travel. And a lot of the banks that provide me free travel by utilizing the points and rewards from those cards also are great banks for business credit and other opportunities of lending, which I'll talk about. So what banks do you really want to focus on? Chase, American Express, Bilt, which is a part of Wells Fargo, but I believe they're leaving Wells Fargo soon. Capital One, don't even worry. Honestly, don't even worry about Capital One until you have multiple credit cards. They suck at the start, all right? And then Citibank. I would say focus on Chase, American Express, Bilt. Either open bank accounts with them and then apply to credit cards and build your credit. Or what you can do is go to a local credit union, Navy Federal, Penn Federal, First Tech, DCU. Go to a local credit union. They are not for profit. They are willing to work with you to help build your credit. And if you have direct deposits going into them, they're going to give you high credit limit cards, 10, 15, 20K. So that's what you want to do. Focus on your personal credit, but do not overspend on your personal credit cards. Please do not overspend. Please set up auto pay. And don't fall into consumer debt trap, because when you overspend, you become these people who are in credit repair, who have missed payments. And that's going to take a year, 2 years to get back. Okay, you don't want to be in that situation. What you want to do is be able to access the system. Okay, so the system that you are living in right now in the United States is the credit system, is the banking system. It is literally the system. Like, you need to have good credit to access tons of different opportunities. That's why I say focus on your personal credit. Okay, leverage the system, because then you can leverage good debt, not consumer debt, but good debt. Now, yes, you can leverage consumer debt to an extent if you understand what I'm talking about. But what we want to do is leverage good debt to purchase assets, investments. But the problem is, if you don't focus on your personal credit and your personal credit is shot and you don't have a good credit profile, you can't access any of this system. You can't access any of this system. This system is built on credit, it's built on debt, and they're going to continue to print money. So if they're going to continue to print money, you want to be able to access money from the banks that isn't yours, that isn't taxed. Debt also isn't taxed, okay? And you want to be able to use that to make yourself more money instead of leaving it in a checking account, in a savings account, where it's going to be depleted and devalued. Okay, so leverage the system. Now, how do we leverage the system? First off, what actually matters when you're building your credit? This is what is going to be the fire to you being able to leverage the system that I'm talking about. You build out your credit. You make sure that your credit limits are higher so you don't run into high utilization. You make sure that your credit age is good, meaning you have strong payments, meaning you add an authorized user from someone that you trust. Okay, you build relationships with the right banks. Now you have multiple places and banks that you can go to not only leverage better interest rates, better opportunities, and lending. And you have multiple options now. Okay, all of that is what matters. Credit limits, age, relationships, and positive payment history. This is leverage, not a lifeline. Okay, focus on your personal credit and focus on these banks as well as credit unions to get started. When you focus on these banks as well, they have access to rewards and points. So this is how I personally have been able to save $50,000 on travel over the last 5-6 years, because I know how to utilize the points. I have other videos talking about that. You can check those out on the channel, but you can get more rewards and benefit when you obviously treat the relationship well. Now, what do you do once you build out your credit report? Well, first off, you've built out your credit report. You now have comparable credit limits. You now have relationships with the right banks. Okay, you have some personal credit limits at 10, 15, 20K. This looks good because you're showing the banks that you can handle that amount of money, right? The problem is that maybe you should access something called business credit cards, because the difference between business credit cards and personal credit cards is you can put spend on business credit cards and they won't show or report on your personal credit report. Okay, this is the problem, is a lot of people will spend a lot of money on the personal cards, right? And then they put their personal credit at risk. Then they put their ability to get additional lending at risk. But if you do it on business cards, well, you don't put your personal credit at risk. Also, business cards offer 0% options for 6, 12, 18 months. Because you've built relationships, you can access those types of cards, okay? And business cards with that 0% rate will allow you to pay a minimum payment of 1 to 2%. Typically, it's 1%. You spend $10,000, you can then pay $100. But you don't want to utilize this in the same way as personal credit cards of the consumer debt trap. This is what I'm saying. You want to stay out of the consumer debt trap. So instead, you want to utilize your spending on things that are going to make you money, on information or coaching that is going to make you more money. Because that is the most important thing, is improving the income that you can make. But the fact that business credit cards are ghost to the personal side allows you to spend on those cards and not affect your ability to get a mortgage, a car loan, to leverage against banks, to get personal loans, right? You're keeping your personal credit intact the entire time. Now, how do you get business credit cards? Well, you don't need an LLC, but you sure as hell can start an LLC. And it's actually really smart too, because if you're an employee, even if you're not an employee, but if you're an employee, you'll get tax benefits. The only way to save on your taxes is by pretty much writing off the spend that you have on an LLC or a business on your personal income. Let's say you make 100 grand, you spend 25K on building a business, right? On trying to start a business or a side hustle. You can then pay taxes on 80K instead of 100K because you've spent 20K on your business to try to make money. This is why I say you want to focus on income, not liabilities, not keeping up with the Joneses, learning to build a skill, to build a business and make more income. If you don't want to set up an LLC at the start, what you can do is you can still apply to business credit cards as a sole proprietor, okay? You can still apply as a sole proprietor. You can still get $30,000 to $50,000 on a business credit card as a sole proprietor with American Express, with Chase, with 3 to 4 other banks. So that is still the option, but it is very easy to set up an LLC. I have a video talking about it, but if you do set up an LLC, make sure it's a very general name. Make sure it doesn't, blatantly say what you plan on doing, like house flipping or credit repair or financial industry stuff. Like, keep it very general because that will help you with getting access to more capital. But the other option, you can apply as a sole prop. But the reason why you want to utilize business credit and business lending is you will not hurt your personal credit. Your personal credit will stay intact, which is the problem with consumer debt, is that people ruin their personal credit because they're spending on things they don't need. Even if you're going to spend on things you don't need, you might as well do it under an LLC. I'll just be honest. You might as well do it under an LLC with good personal credit so you don't run into that issue. Now, why does business credit work too? Because just business credit alone will give you 3 to 5 years of being able to cycle debt. So let's say you do spend on dumb stuff. Let's say you do invest in something that doesn't work out. If you build the right relationships with banks, and this is what I teach my clients when I help them through funding and business credit and all of that, is that you should actually have a strategy. 90% of these businesses that are getting people, entrepreneurs, business owners, and employees access to capital to start and scale their businesses aren't giving you any strategy. They just want you to come back so they can rinse you for more commissions. No, when you work with me, I give you an actual strategy of what banks to build a relationship with so that you are prepared to get higher limit approvals, let's say 6 months down the line. And the great thing is you can balance transfer, balances from a 0% business credit card over to another 0% business credit card. The other great thing is if you then somehow get into crazy debt, which you shouldn't because you shouldn't be spending on dumb stuff. But if it happens, you haven't messed with your personal credit. You can still apply to personal loans, right? You can still get access to capital, okay? But I will say you should have comparable loans in the previous. So when you're building up your personal credit over on this side, maybe you do get a small car loan. Maybe you do get a small personal loan of 5, 10, 15K. So you have that ready to go a year or two later and it looks good so that you can go and get a personal loan because your personal credit is intact, right? It's intact, which means you still have a 750, you still have an 800, you still have 60K in credit limits. Your utilization looks great. You have no missed payments. And so you look amazing to the banks. They want to give you money because you've shown previous history and trust that you can handle it, unlike the rest of the people. So that's great because if you somehow don't build the relationships in my strategy, maybe you are able to still get a personal loan of $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 from any of these, which I have another video talking about that, of the best personal loans this year. You can check that out, of these. And these are all results as of this year from clients I've helped with get access to personal loans. And personal loans can be great because you can feed business bank accounts with cash to be able to help with approvals. They're great because you can use that to pay off debt. But there is a strict process on how you should fill out personal loan applications as well, which is going to get you better results. But guess what? Your personal credit is intact. So now you can access that capital to pay off debt, to still be in a good position because you didn't ruin your personal credit. So that's it, guys. That is seriously how you don't fall into the consumer debt trap, is you understand that you treat your personal credit like gold. Do not fuck with your personal credit. I'm serious. Do not fuck with your personal credit. Build out your profile so it looks good. I have 180 videos on this channel talking about this stuff. Build out your profile so it looks good. And then use your personal credit profile to leverage and access business credit. If you're an employee, you're able to save taxes by trying to start a hustle or a business on the side. Learn how to invest that money in other ways to make income. And initially that should be information or coaching so that you're, not running into issues on your own and spending too much time with shiny object syndrome, and you're getting your questions answered and you're able to break through those issues right away, coaching information is the way to go initially if you do not already have a plan. But if you do have a plan, then use it towards marketing or hiring or outsourcing. But if you're an employee, use your personal credit to leverage access to business credit. Then, because you've built relationships, because you have multiple relationships with cards, with banks, now you can negotiate terms. Now you have multiple rates. Now you can get increased limits. Now you have multiple options because your personal credit hasn't been screwed with. And now you have access to multiple lending products, multiple banks, and lifelines. If you do fuck up, because it can happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but it definitely can happen. So this is called the debt leverage system. And you should absolutely utilize this. Well, Zach, why would I get more debt to leverage the system? Well, hell, 70% of you are taking on the worst debt. I'm trying to tell you that if you're going to take on debt, because honestly, it should be good debt, not bad debt. It should be good debt, and it should be used towards learning how to make more income. It should be used towards write-offs and saving money on taxes. It should be used towards information and coaching so that you can make more money in a system that is going to print your money to oblivion and devalue your dollar anyways. The rich use debt because it's not taxed. They then take out debt against their own debt because it's not taxed. They save money to build their wealth, right? They take out debt to continue building their wealth and buying assets and diversifying. So I'm telling you, why not use the easiest access to that system, which is focus on your personal credit. Don't screw with it. And then that will give you access to leverage on the business side, which is ghost to your personal side, which allows you to get 3, 5, 6 years when you actually have a strategy to not fall in the consumer debt trap. So don't fuck with your personal credit, understand your personal credit, build out your profile, leverage access to business credit, leverage access to loans and lending and different banking relationships. And if this is you, if you're someone who wants to access capital, you have good credit, right? You want to understand the system a little bit better, then reach out to me directly with the link down below. We'll schedule a strategy session, see if you're a good fit, see if I want to work with you. So fill out the link below if you want to work with me. I've helped business owners, entrepreneurs, employees, especially former athletes like myself, access capital to grow and scale their businesses and really understand the financial system. So check out any of my other videos on the channel. I have over 180 videos. If you guys have comments or questions, drop them down below. If you haven't, hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.